While we were setting up, you said you had a couple friends that were always calling you for filmmaking advice or whatever, which prompted an idea.
Yeah, well, they both, it was in the same week. They were calling me up saying, hey, can you meet me so we could talk about some things? I'm doing my film and I need some advice. I said, sure, man. So I would always usually just try to give advice based on a story or an experience. Not necessarily this is what you have to do, because every film is going to be different. And in that week, these two friends of mine were like, you really should write a book about all your experiences, man. You've done a lot. And I was in a place back then where I'm like, yeah, I've done a lot, but I'm not where I want to be. So who's going to listen? Who's going to care? And they're like, well, we would care. Like, he's like, there's a lot of people that you would inspire just knowing that you're still doing it, even though you're not at that place that you want to be at, but that you still continue to work. And you always have a lot of experience. So why not put it into a book form? And I said, well, we'll see. And then, so I kind of played with the idea for a little while. And then about 3 years ago, I got with a writing group and started sharing some chapters with them. And they really encouraged me to keep pursuing it, because it is quite a journey. I'm not a connected guy. I'm not a Hollywood guy. I grew up in Wilmington. It wasn't a place that bred great artists. There was nothing really inspiring around me. I just loved movies, and I thought I wanted to be an actor, but I found that I was a director. And so when I made that change, nothing happened for me as an actor. But as soon as I made that change to be a director, things started happening. So yeah, that's kind of the long answer. But yeah, I started writing a book called Stereotypical: My Filmmaking Journey from the Harbor to Hollywood. And it should be out in October. And hopefully people will get a value from it.
When those two friends sort of threw that idea out there, where do you start? Because I'm sure, we all see our life in one way, and other people can see it from another and think it's either really interesting or whatever. How do you
Well, I had initially started at the theater academy that I met my wife at, because that's when I first started directing. You had to take a directing class there. And my attitude was so against it. Like, I didn't want to direct a play. I was there to act, right? And I found, we had to do this project for the directing class I just half-assed. And I found the letter for my grade on that the teacher wrote to me. It was basically saying, you show the most promise of any person in this classroom as a director. But you haven't done the work. I can't give you, a grade other than this. But I'm really disappointed. You think and talk and speak like a director. And I was like insulted by the thing. I'm an actor. And so I ran into that teacher on a few occasions, and, I'm obviously directing a lot more now. So, and I don't act at all in my stuff for the most part. I'll have a cameo here and there. But that's where I started. And then, it's weird when you start writing something that personal, it triggers other memories. And then I remembered producing something when I was 7 years old, in my garage. It was a show for the kids in the neighborhood. And so that's where I started the book, with how that came about. That was the first time I had produced anything. And I was in it, and the trials and tribulations of that, of acts quitting and then coming in at the last minute, and I had to do everything. But it happened. I actually produced a little show like The Little Rascals. That was my inspiration, The Little Rascals. They had such a can-do attitude about anything. They had their own fire department. You know what I mean? So it was things like that. It was that kind of spirit to it. And I try to keep that spirit in when I'm up against some great odds and producing something.
Where do you go to write these chapters? Are you writing at home?
I used to go to the Aroma Cafe in Studio City. The reason that place was important to me was when I moved from Wilmington to Studio City, I was paying $400 a month for a studio on that street on Tahunga. And I would get home late night bartending. I'd walk my dog at 1:30 in the morning, which you couldn't do in Wilmington where I grew up. And that little cafe was there, and I would go there to write. And there was a sense that I had made it already. I was out of Wilmington, and I was living in Studio City, a place that was so Hollywood, it called itself Studio City. And I was writing, and at that point, I felt like I had made it. And so that place was that for a while, but now I kind of bounce around. We moved out of that area about 3 years ago. And so now I just bounce. Sometimes it's at home, you know. It just depends. I carry a notebook with me. I'm always writing. So, and it's just translating my notes. But I will write pretty much anywhere I can. I'll take my laptop with me, or I'll have a notebook with me all the time, no matter what.
And when you started writing those chapters, did it reframe your life for you in any way? Did you look at yourself differently?
It helped me get out of the place I was in after doing my 7th film. And I was kind of wounded after my 7th film because I had stopped and started so many times even before that. And then nothing happened with that one. And so I was kind of like, why am I still drudging along? Which is what I felt like I was doing. And all the negative experiences of getting 7 feature films were like kind of like right here. Whoops, I don't want to mess up the mic. Right here. And as I was writing the book and speaking of the experiences, the negative stuff was very small. It was all really fun and inspiring and a reminder to myself of why I was doing this. So the book was very cathartic for me in that sense. One of the chapters is on 2010. At the beginning of that year, my 4-year-old was hit by a car. And he survived. I always should stress that. He survived and he's doing well. He's 14 now. But that's how my year started, and it ended with me losing my house. So, and in that time, I released my 3rd feature film, but 2 films that I was counting on, the financing fell through, and that's why I lost my house, because I was counting on those 2 films, and I had gambled pretty big, and I thought I was gonna lose my family at that time, but luckily the wife was very supportive even in that time.